To the Artist Emancipation Podcast. I'm your host, Shawna Poliziani, and I'm here with a very special guest today who I'm so excited to talk to, Kilian McMann, who is a graphic designer and illustrator, and I've had the pleasure of working with him, and he's fucking insane. He's so good. So Kilian, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to hear all about your story. Let's just get into it. As an artist, where did you find yourself starting? Was it young? Was it older? You tell us a little bit of history about yourself.
Sure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I was always kind of good at drawing. Like my grandma was good at drawing and my dad was kind of good at drawing, but they never really pursued it. So I was kind of the art kid. I liked to draw stuff, took all the art classes in school, but I never really wanted to be the starving artist, like having something to kind of say with my work necessarily. I liked to solve problems. So then once I figured out that graphic design was a thing, that's like, oh, that's a more like business, practical oriented way to be an artist and make a living. And yeah, it all kind of fell into place from there.
It's funny because I have a similar story. I'm like, I wanted nothing more than to go to college and just paint for the rest of my life and to be that weird artist. But like, everybody was like, how are you gonna like live and make money? And I was like, oh, graphic design is fine. And turns out I love it. So it's great.
Yeah.
But I love that. Was there a moment growing up that you knew that you kind of were going to do this for the rest of your life?
Kind of. Hard to pin it down to an exact moment, but it's definitely tied to the appendices from the special extended editions of the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah.
Just because I was obsessed with those movies when I was a kid. I still am. And I watched, it's like 14 hours worth of behind the scenes making of stuff. And there's like interviews with the concept artists talking about, this is how I designed Sting or all these orc designs. And like, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to be for a long time, was a concept artist and to work in like movies and video games. But kind of shifted after college, but I mean, I still have a bunch of books for inspiration and that kind of stuff, so I still love all of that. But yeah, I think that is seeing, oh, that's a job you can do, is drawing orcs. Cool. I would like to do that.
Like, I'm in.
Yeah.
It's very interesting too, because I think like as I'm talking to different artists on this podcast, you really kind of see where the inspiration for your work comes. Because I can look at your work now and I can tell that you're sort of into the concept art, which is a really fun thing. So if you, just for people who are listening who have never come across your work, what is your specialty? Like, what do you love to do?
So I do a lot of beer labels and t-shirt designs. That's kind of my staple bread and butter stuff these days. I do a little bit of branding too, but I'm starting to kind of get away from that because I know what I'm good at and what I like to do. Style-wise, been like really the last like year or two has been helpful in kind of narrowing down, figuring out like what my actual kind of style is. It's still not totally there. It's always evolving, but I think it really boils down to line work. I like a lot of detail and intricate stuff. I hate drawing architecture. I like fur and organic kind of textures and stuff. So like drawing line work and fur, kind of like what I did with that wolf poster.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'll have to post it so people can see the wolf. He did this fucking cool illustration. It was for my VIP clients, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago.
I think,
don't remember.
yeah, 2023.
Yeah, and I was just like, just make something cool with wolves and roses. Like, my favorite thing to work with artists is to just let you do your thing. I'm like, I don't want to constrain you in any way, just fucking go for it. He turns around this sketch that he shows me, and it was fucking beautiful. I was like, oh my god. So it was like very detailed. The wolf looks impeccable, like just a background with a castle in it. It was so beautiful. I'll post it so people know what we're talking about. But I was actually looking through your Instagram feed and just looking through your work, and there was like a definite shift. I don't know when it was because I wasn't paying attention to dates, but you can tell in your work, like you just took it to the next level. It was that detail that you're talking about now. It just really incredible illustrations that started to come through. But what would you say to people who are trying to find this style? And I know you said it's always evolving, which is so true. But people who really get stuck on, I don't have a style, I don't have something that makes me, right? Like, what is your advice to those artist?
Number one, I think don't worry about it because it'll just come naturally. That's what happened with me. Like, I was always a good, versatile artist where I could do painterly portraits or like watercolor or like inky line work stuff to like simple logos. Like, I tried to do basically everything and wanted to be a whole toolbox worth of artist all in one, but I didn't have anything that was like, oh, that's just me style wise. And it took until basically until I got a client right at the end of 2023 and who I've been working with all of 2024, Burning Barrel Brewing Company. And they needed a lot of work. So I'm doing like 6 to 10 illustrative beer labels a month. And so I had to really kind of figure out a process that I could do that was, easily repeatable and efficient enough to get something cool out in time. So so really having to do a whole bunch necessitated figuring out kind of what that style was. Because I would used to take a really long time on a lot of stuff because I didn't have okay, first I do the sketch, then I do the ink, then I do the colors in this specific way. And once you kind of figure out a rhythm of that, it helps kind of speed up the process a little bit. It makes it easier to kind of predict how long something's going to take. So yeah, having the necessity of I need to turn all of these around at getting really busy, that helped me figure out what my style was.
Yeah, we're often forced into figuring it out. That's what I like to say. But how did you get into the beer can world?
Good question. So I did a beer label project in college that I really liked for my capstone, and it was just a self-initiated thing. Wanted to do a cool Medusa beer label where the snake heads were hops. And so I liked that, graduated, got a job at a print shop, worked there for 2 years and kind of got burnt out and quit. And then I wanted to start freelancing while looking for other jobs. And I had moved to Sacramento, which had a huge booming craft beer scene at the time. It's still pretty big, but not as big as it was. And I just decided, well, I liked that beer label project, so why don't I reach out to some breweries? So I did a couple more beer label designs just for fun to kind of show what I could do the work that you want to get hired for.
Yeah.
And I went to the California Craft Beer Summit, which had 160 breweries all there. It was a conference for that industry. And so I was one of the only graphic designers to go there. And so I just went to a couple of the workshop things, handed out a lot of business cards, talked to people. I went to all the trade show booths. And then the next day was a big beer festival where they were all lined up with tents, all down Capitol Mall in Sacramento. And so I just handed a business card. Hey, do you ever work with freelancers? Who does your labels? That kind of thing. 160 times. And that got me my first couple of labels. So just put yourself out there in the industry that you want to work in, not just another design conference, which is fun. Very much
it was fun, and I was actually going to talk to you about this because you made such an impression to me there. I think collaboration is huge, especially for artists. It's one of the things we're not really taught to do. Once you find your style, keep it to yourself. Gatekeep all these secrets, right? At least that's what I've run into, and a lot of other artists have run into. Mm-hmm. When I went to that conference, I went by myself, and I think maybe you did too. It was just showing up and okay, I don't know how to navigate this. This was when I was very first coming into a world of okay, maybe I should talk to other people and not just sit behind a computer all day, right? But you were there. You had posters that you specifically made for this conference, just giving them out for free, talking to everybody, and you were so amazing. And that's such an asset to have as somebody who runs their own business as an artist. So can you speak to a little bit about how I know you just said about the beer stuff, but
for sure.
That's such a hard skill to learn for artists. So did you always have that, or did you have to kind of learn and navigate that?
Good question. I think the first half I'll address first. So coming up with the idea for the poster in the first place was 2023 was a very slow year for me, but I also felt was really starting to find my groove artistically and getting happier with the work that I was producing, but I just wasn't getting hired and had no money. So
right.
I had some free time, and once I committed and bought the ticket, knew I was going to Into the Woods, because I'd always been a fan of Lincoln since I was in college, and kind of wanted something like that to do the same kind of work. And their mascot is Bigfoot. My mascot is the Great Raven, raven with antlers, kind of like a mythical thing. So I'm like, what if I faced those two off in a poster or t-shirt design or something, and just printed them off, brought them to the conference, and the goal was to make a good impression and like get on the radar of art directors and people who kind of matter in the scene, essentially, who like have done a lot of impressive work that I also wanted to do. I wanted to be in that cool kid circle, I guess. And so I talked to my friend Trevor from Wizarco, who I knew. He did a lot of the printing for that event and had done a lot of printing with Lincoln before. So I just totally blindly reached out, asked if I could do like some work for trade or something. And so I designed some cool Wizarco art in exchange for the printing of the posters, because like I said, I was very poor at the time. I had no money, and he was super cool. We got along great. We actually, when I booked the room too, I had 2 beds, but it was only me, and again trying to save money, I'm like, you want to be roomies? And so we became like lifelong friends after that. It was really cool. So couldn't recommend that. If you're ever going to a conference by yourself, just reach out to somebody who you know is going to be there. My dog's going crazy.
It's fine. Mine are
But it's a
monsters.
great way to meet people in the off hours of like being able to talk about like digesting the day.
Yeah.
And here's the cool people I met and talked about. And yeah, it was super awesome. So highly recommend that. So I think that answered like about half of your question.
Yeah, yeah, and like I'll put it in an easier term too. So it was like, have you ever been shy? Because a lot of artists get the rap of like being shy, not confident. Like leadership is a skill that I think we have to grow into as artists. So did you kind of always have that push to just go talk to people, or is it something you had to overcome?
I never, I don't think it was ever like debilitatingly difficult, but I wouldn't say it was always easy. It's definitely a skill I've developed, and it's really just kind of pushing through it. Being a freelancer and having to go out and get your own clients, that kind of necessitates it. Word of the hour.
It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't make it if you don't go talk to people and ask, hey, can you give me money to do something that I can do for you? And just, you get more comfortable the more times you do it. Having a beer helps, because it helps, loosen you up.
That's why I went to that industry.
Yeah, so like the industry has its perks. It's easy to break the ice a little bit there because you have something to kind of loosen everybody up and be like, oh yeah, what are you ordering? As long as you get past the icebreaker and break into it, then yeah, I think that helps to just go out and talk and
That's
stop
great
caring
advice.
about what people think.
Right. And I'm like, we're artists. We can be weird. We can be a little out there. Like, people accept that. Like, what they think of us used to our advantage, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so since you haven't really felt like the shy kid, what would you say is probably like your biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome in your artist journey?
I think the business side is tough. It took me, because I started freelancing when I only had 2 years. I was 2 years out of college. I had been working at a print shop as a designer there. So like I didn't get like the agency training essentially from like working at a nice agency doing budget design stuff. I didn't have a lot of other designers to work with either and learn from. So my goal was to find another job, and I just never did. So I was forced into kind of being freelance, and now I love it, but it was really hard. I couldn't have done it without my then girlfriend, fiance, partner, now wife, where she was making a little bit more money than me and was able to kind of help pay the bills and stuff while I was getting my foundation started and my foot in the door in different places. So having a partner absolutely made it possible. I would have been way farther behind because if I was by myself, because yes, I'd have more me time to just focus on the career and stuff, but like I would have also had to have some other part-time job, like at another print shop doing soul-sucking work that drains your creativity, and then you don't want to work when you get home because you're burnt out. Right. And when you are working, you're not working on cool stuff.
So we're gonna get that wife a great Valentine's Day present. Because I think a lot of the time people have these journeys of like, oh, I pushed through it myself. But it's like, if you have the support and you have that person there, like, that's amazing. That's truly like what makes all the hard work worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And my goal was always to like, I really don't want this kind of unbalanced relationship to just be the norm forever. Like my goal was to catch up, and I didn't have like a lot of pressure from her either. Like she was super supportive the whole time, which was awesome, and I really appreciated it. But I didn't like want to be a burden. And that was a big issue for me for a while. It's just my own like anxiety getting all up about like, why can't I make money? I'm good at what I do. This sucks. This is so
And
hard.
it is,
And
but
yeah.
like a lot of artists are in this situation where it's they're not making money and they tie it to their talent or they tie it to their worth, right? It sounds like you were able to overcome that and you were able to see that, like, yes, I am worthy of making this money. Yes, I am worthy of taking this process and seeing it through, which I think a lot of artists kind of just give up in the middle of it because one, they don't have the resources of business like you were talking about. And I think that's why conversations like this are huge, because we're able to talk to each other and share our resources and be like, that shit happens to everybody, right? It's not just a one type person has this issue and that's it. It's like, I think there are so many talented artists out there who don't make shit because they're not willing to go through the process of learning and seeing the business through. And it's a skill.
Yeah, it really is. Like I like always knew that I was good and I just needed to get better and that it would eventually work. And I figured out like I was going to therapy at the time and kind of realized I tie a lot of my own self-worth and happiness to the success of my business because that's what I love to do. And if I'm not being successful, that hurts. And what kind of pulled me out of that was getting really fucking busy and doing cool work, and that makes me better because I'm keep busy constantly working. It's like artist boot camp where I'm just getting slammed with awesome projects all the time, so I just keep getting better. I had to
Yeah.
draw like 5 skeletons in a weekend, so I got better at drawing skeletons really quick, and now I just drew another series. It's for a series of like a tiki party beer label thing. So last year I did that. This year I just wrapped it up today, and these ones are better because I've gotten 1 year's worth better. And I'm feeling great. This past year was the best year I've ever had. I think I'm either matched or made more money than my wife this year finally. So like I tipped
Yeah.
that scale. I'm like, okay, I can fucking do this. This is great. It's about time. Thank you.
And it's only going to get better, you know? Like
The
you're getting
goal.
more skill, more experience. Like it's only going to go up from here. So that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. This is such a good like let's throw a party for you. Okay, so now we're talking about your work and like how you're getting happier with it. What would you say your favorite project is that you've worked on to date?
I mean, there's been a lot. I think I'm usually very stoked on whatever I'm actively working on, but as far as like, I think my magnum opus kind of project that I have worked on was I did my first mural this summer, also for the same client who's just been awesome to me, Burning Barrel. They opened
Yeah.
up a distillery in a town like 45 minutes from here in Placerville. And so I did this cool mural design that was very much in a kind of different style than what I normally do. It's like this fox that's leaping, but inside the fox is like a bunch of other NorCal animals and wildlife. So I did the design not intending to do the actual mural, but I painted it in like a kind of line work, what's the word, like lithography printmaking kind of woodblock carving style almost. And so I figured, okay, this would be replicable for a person to paint later. We just got to find somebody who could do it. But it ended up being really detailed because it was me doing it, and it's like a 17-foot wall. So I after I'd gotten the design done, I'm like, I think I could do this. If you wanna give me a shot, I'm pretty sure I could pull it off. And I
Yeah.
thought it would be like 3 to 5 days of hard work, and it took 3 weeks, like 93 hours total. And yeah, I
It's
got paid
beautiful
more
though.
than
I've
my
seen
initial
it.
quote, but
My God. Yeah, well, see, and this is the thing. Like, it's like that expansion of work for you, like, it gave you so much insight to, like, now you can paint murals and you know how much work it is, so you can make more money doing that, right?
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing in figuring out, like, how to transfer medias with it?
That was a pain. I brought projectors. That was my main way of getting the design on the wall, because I know you can do like a grid, and I did that in like art classes when I was a kid, but for this one it was just so complicated that I wanted to project it up on the wall. I had to use two different projectors because one had better resolution but it wasn't as bright, so during the daytime it was really hard to see, and the other one was brighter but it had way lower resolution, so like a line just looks like a couple of big pixels, and I kind of have to guess what that was when I did it the first time. So yeah, that was a pain. The first couple days are really difficult, but once I figured out how to get the paint to work on the brush the way I wanted it to, it all started to kind of come together. So about halfway through the second day, I was like, okay, I can do this. And then about halfway through the whole process, I'm like, how the fuck do I make this easier? This is taking so long. Oh my God. I was just swearing, yelling at the wall. It's like 2 a.m. And
Like, being involved in a mural, but like I've seen people painting them, and it's like 2 months,
It's
months time that they're working on
so
something
much. Yeah.
similar size. Yeah, so good for you though. Like, you know so much more about it now. Or
Yeah.
do you want to do more murals after that?
I mean, only for like a sizable amount of money and when I have the time to do it. Because I was working full time on top of this. This was all nights and weekends. And and we had a new puppy at the time too. So like my wife was taking care of the dogs while I would go drive 45 minutes away, work for 5 or 6 hours a night, come back late. And I just needed to get it done. But yeah, so indoors. I don't want to do any outdoor murals.
Yeah.
Lots
You're
of
like,
money.
I have a list of stipulations.
Yeah, lots of money, something really cool, limited color palette, something in my style, hopefully more local
Yeah.
and maybe smaller scale. I don't know. I'm not against it, but one
It
of the
did
main
turn out
reasons
beautiful though. Like,
it did.
I saw it on Instagram and I was like, holy shit, like, it's amazing.
Yeah, like it's probably the coolest thing I've ever made, and it was my most successful Instagram thing I think I've done too.
Yeah. Good.
But I just wanted to make sure I could do something if AI does kind of take over and take all our jobs and stuff. Like, they can't paint a wall yet, so
I
have my proof of concept. I can do it. If all the shit hits the fan, people are still gonna want murals. So
True.
I can always resort.
I honestly
to that,
don't think we have anything to worry about there, but I don't know. It's a crazy subject to me, but
yeah.
We're at the kind of the beginning of a new year, 2025. I'm sure people will listen to this podcast beyond this. But since we're at the beginning of a new year, what are some of your goals artistically for your business, life goals that you have this year?
Well, I would like to make more money than last year.
Yeah.
Which is always kind of the goal, but I'd like to work with some bigger clients, like national and international people. Like, I met some people at Into the Woods who I made some connections with that just never quite took off, but was almost there. Yeah. So I think I want to touch back into some people's inboxes and see if we can get anything going. So kind of a little bit of an ego thing where I'm like, I want to put that logo on my website, because then you kind of need a little bit of an ego to make it in this industry as a freelancer. Not too big, a manageable amount, but enough, more of a self-confidence in yourself.
100%.
To be able to, like, yeah, I know I'm good at what I do. Let's do something cool, but you have to have that in order to make it work. And I struggled with that for a really long time. And so kind of breaking out of that to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm good enough to work with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, you are. You're fucking incredible. Like, I love your work, and it's been such an honor to, like, watch you grow. And I've only known you for, 2 years now, and it's just watching your Instagram feed. But the way that you've transformed as an artist and the way your style has evolved, it's phenomenal to watch. And I can't wait to see where you are at the end of this year, right?
Thanks. I mean, honestly, your piece that I did for you was, like, right at the beginning of kind of finding what that style was. Like I did the Into the Woods poster and then yours right after.
Yeah.
And then that kind of helped solidify the foundation for that kind of style. And it just kind of exploded from there. So thank you. You
Can't
helped.
wait to see where it goes. Kilian, it's been amazing talking to you today. Where can people find you online if they want to see more of your work or get to know you?
I'm on Instagram at Great Raven Design Co. And my website is greatravendesign.co. I'm on LinkedIn.
He's like, big
Not very
corporations,
much.
find me there. Find me
Yeah.
there.
Kilian McMann. Kilian has one L. Yeah, I'm not very active on LinkedIn, but who knows?
Yeah, truly, I have friends who like love LinkedIn, and I'm like, I haven't touched it in 10 years, but I have one. So
Yeah.
I don't
Like,
know.
I know I should, but when you're lucky enough to be very busy, then I don't need to go out and try and find that work. So when I get slow, maybe I'll be more motivated to
There you go.
LinkedInify myself.
LinkedInify. That's amazing. Kilian, it's been so amazing talking to you. I'll be sure to post your links if anybody wants to reach out to you for further work or just discussion about an artist's life. But thank you so much for being here today, and we will talk to you in the future, I'm sure.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Of course.